and then I will answer the questions.
Thank you. Asante sana. Your Excellency, the President, Ruto, the governors, honorable members of parliament, wananchi wote hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. Yutuo saureu. Oyaore. Unmaver. Thank you. Your Excellency, I was invited here to come and give a keynote address. I prepared some notes that I want to share with this audience here today, this morning. Just bring it here. Thank you. So, Your Excellency, first I'm so happy to have been invited to come here this morning, and also to thank you for taking a very keen interest in the economy of this region. Now I will first share some of the thoughts that I have put down here, after which I will probably then say some things off the cuff. The core purpose of devolution was to enable each part of this country to explore its potential, deploy in it the service of its people, and help unleash an economy that fires on all cylinders. Devolution was pegged on an understanding that no part of this country is too poor to contribute to the betterment of the Project Kenya, and none too rich to single-handedly make Kenya great. Kenya needs all its parts in order to leap forward. Since we started taking national days to counties and assigning specific themes to those celebrations, it has become clear that every part of Kenya has something to offer. Progressively, you have come to the realization that there is more to Kenya than just crops, livestock, and minerals. It is my hope that as we continue on this journey of rotational Madaraka Day celebrations and themes, Kenyans will come to appreciate each other more and build the understanding and trust that are necessary to build a stable and a prosperous nation. We are here to talk blue economy. Just meters from Lake Victoria, the world's second largest freshwater lake after Lake Superior in North America. As we embrace our oceans and lakes and rivers as potential sources of growth under a blue economy, we are coming to the realization that there is more to these water bodies than just fish. Blue economy is a relatively new era of focus in our country. Despite only recent focus on this field, Kenya is putting commendable effort, and I believe that in no time you can make this sector one of the top contributors to our national economy and the well-being of our citizens. The government has rightly identified blue economy as a potential source of inclusive economic growth, job creation for the youth and riparian communities, food and nutrition security, sustainable aquaculture, and conservation and climate resilience, among others. For us to realize and maximize on the full benefits of this sector, there are deliberate steps we must urgently embark on as a nation. I will outline a few. But before I do that, Your Excellency, you need to know that these people were originally not fishermen. Luos were pastoralists. As they came down from the north, they were traveling along rivers and lakes. That's why they are called river-lake Nilotes. But sometimes in their history, about 200 years ago, their cattle, the stocks were decimated by an epidemic 200 years ago. That's when they turned to the lake, to fishing and to sedentary life at that time. But that pastoralism life is still very much in their blood. These people here, they know how to borrow remo. With the agreement that the blue economy is part of the new trend going into the future, we need to roll out a clearly understood and implementable policy of training and deploying an army of ocean scientists, marine biologists, seafarers, petroleum engineers, fishers, and many other maritime professions to help us explore and exploit the full worth of our maritime bodies. I believe we all agree that we have barely studied what lies in our ocean waters and the ocean floor. We have barely studied our lakes to fully appreciate and exploit what lies in and below them for our use. We have only scratched the surface with regard to our capacity for shipping and water logistics. We have hardly explored our capacity to generate and export seafood, among other items that the rest of the world have invested in from maritime economy. We develop and implement a robust and comprehensive mechanism for management and protection of all maritime life, breeding grounds, to enable life in the waters sustain a blue economy. We must also embark on protection of maritime vegetation like mangroves, reeds, and other plants that are known to be critical to the life in the oceans, rivers, swamps, lakes, and all other water bodies, therefore, to green economy. Lake Victoria, just like Lake Turkana, River Tana, and the Indian Ocean have brought forth life that we seek to exploit. We have a responsibility to ensure that life continues to flourish in these bodies. You have to protect the existing mangrove and other swamps, forests, and vegetation, and embark on the replanting of hectares of depleted marine lands. Otherwise, we will lose the entire species of marine lives and undermine the blue economy. So far, the only attempt to conserve marine vegetation, which is also dwindling, has to do with the mangroves in Lamu area. Everywhere else, it is marine exploitation with zero conservation of critical vegetation regeneration. Let us be firm against pollution. We have to be firm on a single-use plastic ban in order to reduce the non-biodegradable waste entering the marine environment and undermining blue economy. There must be a clear understanding by all, including investors, that there can be no blue economy, or any economy for that matter, through pollution. We must all understand that economic development can't be built on environmental degradation. Only healthy waters will generate wealth. For eternity, we have tended to see and treat our water bodies, including the lakes, rivers, and oceans, as obstacles and dividing lines between communities, regions, and nations. This has to change. We must begin to see Lake Victoria, Turkana, Tana River, Indian Ocean as seaways and links to other people, countries, and other markets. In this regard, the effort by the government to revive and modernize the port system and supporting piers and other infrastructure is highly commendable as a journey towards the realization of the economic potential of the Marines. Your Excellency, the fish stocks in the lake here had been actually dwindling. In the 60s, there was a research that was being carried out by the East African Fisheries Research Institute, which is based in Jinja. It was led by the late Professor David Wasau. When they realized that the indigenous fish was dwindling, they decided to import species from other countries. They went to Lake Superior in Canada and bought another species of tilapia, different from the indigenous tilapia known as Tilapia nilotica. They bought another one, which is original ngege. They bought another one, which they bought in the lake. It was called Nyamami, or Giaba. Then they went to Lake Kyoga in Uganda and bought another fish, that is the perch. It's called the Nile perch. The Nile perch was not indigenous to the lake. It was imported from Lake Kyoga. But the Nile perch has a history. It was originally not a freshwater fish. It was in the Mediterranean. Your Excellency, you know, if you bring a saltwater fish into the freshwater fish here, it will not survive. It dies. Like if you take the freshwater fish to the Indian Ocean, it also dies. But this Nile perch moved from the Mediterranean into the Nile Delta, where the water, fresh water coming with the river, mixes with the water from the sea. And then the water in the delta is not very salty. That is how it started to acclimatize itself with fresh water. It started now moving up the river. The fishermen who caught it brought it up the rapids. That's how it managed to come all the way to Lake Kyoga. But from Lake Kyoga, it could not come into the Nile because of the Owen Falls. It is that team led by Professor Wasau that brought it from there and planted it into the lake here to increase the need. And at that time, Your Excellency, the research was based in Jinja for the entire East Africa. And fishing in the lake was not restricted. Kenyan fishermen could go and fish in Uganda waters and also Tanzania waters. The situation has since changed. And therefore, we must go back to the drawing board. Your Excellency, in 1971, there was a coup in Uganda, and a madman called Idi Amin took power. Idi Amin, in his madness, annexed several Kenyan islands and made them part and said this were part of Uganda. In fact, he said that the border between Kenya and Uganda was in Naivasha, and that he was going to redraw the boundary. Although he did not realize his dream, that situation is the cause of our problem right to today. Where is the border between Kenya and Uganda in the lake? When I was the Prime Minister, we appointed a team led by the then Minister for Lands, now the Governor of Siaya, Honorable Orengo, together with the Minister for East African Affairs and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, who is the current Speaker of the National Assembly. and they were tasked to carry out negotiations with the Ugandan counterparts. And those negotiations actually did take place. They went to the regional boundaries, they went to Uganda, they came here to Kenya, they went all the way up to Migingo Island, which was contentious at that time. I heard President Museveni saying that Migingo Island is in Kenya, but the waters around Migingo Island are in Uganda. Now, as they were doing this, Mr. President, it came out that the coordinates that mark the boundary between Kenya and Uganda are based on the river Sio. That where the Sio enters the lake is where you begin to make the coordinates and the angles into the lake. Now, we discovered that river Sio, during one of those floods, had changed its course. And left it used to be one foot, but it moved back into the Kenyan side, several kilometers. So now the Ugandans are saying you need to measure from where River Sio is today. But in those days, River Sio was somewhere else. So if you take the coordinate from where River Sio was entering the lake those days, then those islands are in Kenya. There are 5 islands: Sigulu, Remba, Hama, Wayasi, and I don't know which other one. There are 5. Lolwe. So this is a contentious issue that we need to take up with Uganda. We need to take up this issue with Uganda so that this matter is properly resolved. But secondly, we do not see any reason why our fishermen should be harassed in the waters. We need to come up with an agreement that these waters can be exploited generally. In the Indian Ocean, you've got Koreans, Japanese coming to fish in our waters here, and there's nothing we're doing about it. Why should Kenyan fishermen be harassed when they just cross the border here? And let us then also agree with Uganda so that we know exactly where the border is. Ugandans have brought in Marines in the lake, harassing our fishermen. We should also have Marine in the lake. So that our fishermen are not harassed unnecessarily in the lake. Okay? Having said that, there's also, you mentioned it, the issue of clashes of our fishermen in the lake. They're killing each other because of fish. This is stupid. You should not allow this. Jothura ke kunegru, jolupu mathura okunego negre nam ni kwach marrech. Which word malicha in? Jolupu di nam kuja di gore to the negre. But then, Your Excellency, I know that Joho said he's bringing a helicopter. We need that. We needed it yesterday. A helicopter that will help also the fishermen who are drowning in the lake, so that they can be rescued in good time. So we need more choppers. We also need more boats around, which can fly around and help our people, because we are losing people unnecessarily in the lake. And we should have security so that they can be rescued before they drown in the lake. So, Your Excellency, as a country, we have to work proactively, build local and global partnerships, and promote responsible management of our water resources. We must spearhead a policy of integrated, sustainable marine management founded on knowledge, science, and experience. I thank you. Erukamano Jethuro. Erukamano.
Another round of applause for His Excellency exits. Let's kindly take our seats.